Good evening, everyone. I know it's late, so thank you for still tuning in. My name is John Louie Fabila. I serve as a lecturer under the UP Department of Geodetic Engineering and also serve as a researcher under the same department, but also as a consulting geospatialist for various projects, which means like a lot of people here, I make useful or functional or utilitarian maps for a living. I'm part of a team that leverages various remote sensing datasets and turns them into spatial information. So, for example, we make LiDAR maps in support of engineering design for flood management or water resource management. We make maps for information on hard to reach areas. We combine satellite imageries with ground truth data and make maps for scientific inquiry. And we also make maps and provide information for disaster response. I'm also part of a team that makes impact maps from typhoons and flooding days before they happen so that people in the ground will be guided on whether they should strengthen their shelters or evacuate their livestock and harvest early to lessen the impact of the disaster. So yeah, I make useful or functional maps for a living. So whenever I can, I try to veer away from that and make utterly useless maps for my own fun and for the sake of my sanity. So instead of creating topography from UAVs, I would rather create topo from the videos of my colleagues' faces and then Joy Division style them in QGIS. Instead of analyzing imageries, satellite imageries, I just try to imagine how UP would look like in the fall, kahit na wala naman tayong fall. Instead of tackling hydrological problems, I just try to stylize the watershed of the Cagayan River basin with the colors of H.R. Ocampo that I once saw in a museum. And instead of analyzing typhoon and earthquakes, I just try to visualize them for my own fun. And so for fun, I also look at other fun maps and I came across the Coral Cities by the Ito Design Lab, which tries to visualize the travel time from each city center, as you can see here. And I was like, wow, maybe I can try doing this as well, but with my own datasets. And since most of the time I look at topography, and when I look at topography of volcanoes or mountains, ang nakaka-attract talaga sa mata ko, at least for me, is yung mga strong ridge lines at yung mga network, river network and streamlines. And I thought, as you can see on your right, pwede mo namang i-visualize talaga yung topography ng volcanoes with just a few strokes. So why not do uh, yung ginawa ng Ito Design Lab but for volcanoes? But then, when I read it, they're using their own proprietary software. So what I wanted to do was use open source software and try to recreate it, but using volcanoes. So this is where visualizing volcanoes comes into play. So ang ginamit ko dito ay QGIS, and then Cloud Compare, and then Blender. And then for the BEMs or the topography, I tried to get it from ALOS. And for Taal, I tried to get it from the Open LiDAR data from the Phil LiDAR group. So there are three possible routes that you can go with here. Pwede mong i-digitize yung mga ridges. I don't want to do that. Or I think the more logical way is to get those ridge pixels by using r.geomorphon in grass and then extract the pixel values that have a value of 3 kasi 3 yung nakadesignate for ridge pixels. But to be honest, hindi yun nag-occur sa akin. I'm more of a river guy. So I cheated. So I inverted the DEM because when I do that, the ridge lines would become the rivers. So from that, I could just do my hydrological basin analysis and extract the rivers. So I inverted the raster using Raster Calculator. So as you can see here, original yung left, and then inverted yung nasa right. And then I typed in the functionalities sa QGIS. So channel network and drainage basins to get the lines, the line shape files for the river systems. But I needed points. So I extract vertices from those lines. And then those points, gusto kong lagyan siya ng XYZ. So in my attribute table, I want XYZ. So I add XY fields to the layer. And then I add raster values to points. So later on yung attribute table ko, you will see na meron na siyang XYZ values. And then, yun kasi yung kailangan ko yung XYZ values lang. So, I load that DBF file into a spreadsheet. So, pwedeng Google Docs or LibreOffice, basta any spreadsheet that will do. And then try to manipulate that in that spreadsheet. Kung kailangan mong i-manipulate yung or exaggerate yung vertical elevation, you can do that in the spreadsheet. But make sure that you save it as a text file. Kasi yung text file na yun can be opened in Cloud Compare. And as you can see on the right, when you open that text file in Cloud Compare, pwede mo na siyang i-visualize in 3D. So, okay na siya eh. Maganda naman siya. Pero I wanted to create some shadows and I cannot do that in Cloud Compare. So I thought, why not venture into Blender? So after importing the PLY file that I got from Cloud Compare, in-import ko lang siya into Blender, and then I followed these two videos in YouTube. The first one is basically putting in the material for the points that you imported. And then the second one is into manipulating the camera and the lighting to get the final renders that you have, that you want in Blender. Something like that. Yeah, something like that. So I try to do that for 6 of the most active volcanoes that we have in the Philippines. And this is my final entry for the conference. So I've had rave reviews so far from this. So one of my former students told me na mukhang lampshade yung iba. And yung iba naman ang sabi is mukha siyang fruit cover yung ginagamit natin for apples and pears. So maraming salamat for that. Kidding aside though, I'd like to thank the Pista ng Mapa organizers for picking my entry. Kasi the prize money that we obtained from this, we're using for a small relief operation for those that are uh, affected by Typhoon Rolly. So, yan yung ginamit namin for small relief operations. We started at 20 packs that grew into 300 packs with the help of our friends. So, yung relief operation na yon is para naman may bagong umaga na asahan yung mga kasama natin sa Katanduanes. So, again, maraming salamat sa pakikinig and Diyos mabalos. Bye-bye! Bye-bye! Bye-bye, Bibi!